Commander Riker finished off the Queen's Gambit with the Aldebaran exchange. The Sacred Chalice of Reeks is an old clay pot with mold growing inside of it, and 91% of Starfleet graduates are not posted to Galaxy-class starships on their first assignment. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we're doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 3, Episode 24 already, Menage let me pronounce this correctly, Troi. Written by Fred Bronson and Susan Sackett, they're well known. Directed by Robert Legato. This was May 26th, 1990. How you doing today, Sirach?
Doing well. May 26th.
Yeah, this is almost an anniversary. This is almost a 24-year anniversary for this episode.
It's crazy. We're right on pace with this show.
One thing I always notice, I think I'm maybe the only person that cares about this, because every time I talk about it, they glaze over. But I noticed they took a week off. You know, the last episode was May 14th. This one was May 26th. And I just thought that was peculiar because they took a week off with 3 episodes left in the season. And I think, okay, so 2 weeks before that for post and whatever, that means they took a week off in maybe early May. Like, what was the week off for? Was it for Mother's Day? I don't know. What do you think? Is that something that would happen sometimes on DS9? Just kind of like some random took this week off, or maybe it was a TV scheduling thing.
I can't say. But if it's around this time of year, it's Memorial Day weekend around now. I don't know if that played anything into it. Yeah, I can't say. I have no idea because, I only remember getting our hiatuses after we were done with the episodes.
Yeah, and when you get a week or two off, it's usually around like
it was Christmas.
Spring, it was spring or Christmas, things like that. But early May,
can't tell.
All right. Anyway, it's just always interesting to me, especially when there's 3 episodes left. It's like, just knock them out. You almost got. It's probably some kind of TV scheduling thing. Everybody in the comments below, tell us your theories, or if you know what's going on here. Looking at you, Larry Nemechek, you would know. Let us know. And everybody else, wake up. We're done talking about this boring stuff that I think is interesting. Anyway, so Sirach, when I texted you, we text back and forth about the episodes the night before, and I said Menage a Troi. I added in the text, real title, because I thought you might be thinking, like, is this dude messing with me? What were your first thoughts when you saw that title?
I thought this would be a more Riker-centric episode with one of his fantasies coming true. That's not what I thought got. And yes, you do play with the title name, so I can't tell half the time whether it's actually the name of the episode. Sometimes I go into the episode actually thinking that that's the title, and then I realize you just switched it up. And always for the benefit of the joke, which I'll leave to the imagination. But let me say this, though. I think that some characters are done a disservice by how they're portrayed and reacted to on screen. And because Lwaxana Troi has been essentially stamped with this idea of being irritating or annoying, and that was validated by Picard over so far now 3 seasons. It then makes me as the viewer automatically have that kind of reaction when I see her. And I think that's why you need to make characters a little bit more dynamic and keep them guessing sometimes, especially if they are going to be the annoying character, because you don't want the audience to automatically, make certain assumptions or maybe even dislike the episode altogether based on that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, when I first was watching Star Trek: The Next Generation as a young tyke, kind of, I didn't much care for her character. I was just like,
Yeah.
old lady, kind of annoying. I mean, it was more the episodes, the Waxana Troy episodes in general that I didn't like. It wasn't
Yeah.
so much her. It was just kind of like the episodes didn't really work for me. Um, because I watched when I got into Star Trek, in my youth, I got into Star Trek, which was, a ship of adventurers, in the Federation going out and, you know, doing diplomacy, seeking out new life and aliens and starships and figuring out puzzles. And then sometimes that feeling comes to a screeching halt when now it's a goofy, it's like an I Love Lucy episode, kind of. All of a sudden which is great, but that's not why I was watching Star Trek. So that's why it was a little rough around the edges for me back in the day. And same thing with Deep Space Nine. When I would see an episode that was kind of silly, I wasn't into it as much. Upon rewatching those now I feel like Take Me Out to the Holosuite may be my favorite episode of Deep Space Nine, or one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek ever, because it's so fucking fun. It's so good. It's so fun. So I'm waiting and hoping to get that feeling again in these Next Generation episodes. Hasn't happened
Yeah.
yet, though. I didn't get that Take Me Out to the Holosuite feeling on this episode, sorry to say.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get it. Because like th- this episode had a lot of, let's say this for one, the way it introduced itself was that there was this conference that was happening, and they had a this Raitan Grox character that was going to be the host, and they needed to invite the Ferengi. Reluctantly so, they had the Ferengi involved. And to me, that already started me off with the diplomacy aspect, which I do like those episodes. I like episodes based about
Totally.
cultural diplomacy. Maybe you learn certain things and you're trying to ingratiate yourself for the for the purpose of reaching some common ground in this diplomatic agenda or mission. So I like those kinds of episodes. This took a diversion from that. So it started with that premise, and I'm thinking, okay, well, we got Ferengi on the ship, and one of those Ferengi looks familiar to me, by the way.
I was gonna ask that. I was like, oh, maybe he hasn't noticed. Maybe he didn't. Did you just
I
heard the
noticed.
voice? Was it like an immediate voice
It
thing?
was it was immediate, yeah. Because I don't know, certain people like Ethan have a very strong character and voice that's
Yeah.
almost just it's undeniable. I feel like John Billingsley is also like that.
Jeffrey Combs. Yeah.
Jeffrey Combs, yeah, exactly. So there's just, I mean, JG. It's hard for you not
JG, there's no way he could hide himself. He could be put on a full bodysuit and be like, "That's JG Hertzler."
Yeah, exactly. So there's just certain personalities that just shine through no matter what the makeup is. It's the way they pronounce words and the way they talk, and which is interesting. Speaking of Ethan in this, Ethan Phillips in this episode, the way he portrays a Ferengi, I love the way that each character portrays a Ferengi, because, as you can see, there is no, just like in any other species in the world, there's diversity, right? And
Mhm.
we always expect like a homogenous kind of presentation of a Ferengi when we see one. And those are kind of the cultural biases that we have as a viewer, thinking, oh, Ferengi, that's not a Ferengi, it's supposed to be like this. But actually, there's variety in Ferengi, just like there's variety in the world. And I am interested to see the way different actors portray a Ferengi and the different traits that they bring to that character I thought Ethan brought the scrupulous, the scrupulous, like, kind of, um, we stick to the Ferengi rules type Ferengi
Mm.
aspect, which reminded me of Brunt. And
Ooh, nice.
it kind of, his portrayal reminded me of, and I should say the other way around, Brunt reminds me of his, because
Mm.
obviously he's preceding it. But so, yeah, the way Jeffrey Combs plays Brunt reminds me of how Ethan Phillips played his character, which was Dr. Farek. Yeah,
Something like that. He was a doctor.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
you know, I w- I've got something crazy to say on this matter, and that is that it is really interesting though because we're watching these shows kind of in rewind. You know what I mean? Like we're seeing like what you said. You know, he reminded me of Jeffrey Combs. Well, hang on a second. He was actually first, and I was thinking Ethan Phillips, who plays Neelix, and by the way, I could never remember the doctor name that he was playing in this episode, so I just kept calling him Neelix in my notes. But Ethan Phillips, I feel like to this date, 3 seasons into the creation of the Ferengi, like 70 episodes, to this date, he had done more to evolve the Ferengi character types than any previous iteration of Ferengi, whether it's Armin or whether it's Max or whether it's the several other actors. This guy that played Damon Togg, what's his name? Um, Damon Togg, Frank Corsentino. He also played Damon Bach in season 1, episode 8, The Battle, or episode 4, like one of the very first, where the Ferengi were introduced. No, that
Mm-hmm.
was the last outpost. So the last outpost was episode 4. The battle, I think, was episode 8. So the second Ferengi episode. Anyway, so many different actors portraying so many different Ferengi, and I feel like Ethan Phillips did the most to fill out the Ferengi to be less of a caricature all the way here. He was a Ferengi that was over here, which led the way for Quark, for Rom, for Brunt. He kind of pulled them in this direction rather than them being like this little group of character types, if that makes sense. I thought he just because he just played it almost like a regular person. The lines were Ferengi, but he wasn't acting all sniveling and ridiculous and like one of those jumping monkeys that like they bounce everywhere. Anyway, just an interesting
100%
thought.
agree with you that he did a lot to advance the way Ferengi are perceived.
Mhm.
100%. He did this. It was like, it almost to me establishes the rules of acquisition. It kind of led me to believe that there is a system of how they go, and if you break it, then you're going against. Don't make me report you to the Ferengi Revenue Service or
Yeah,
whatever,
the grand treasurer.
whoever
Yeah.
yes, whoever's going to be in charge. So there was that aspect, which I think ultimately becomes a cultural aspect of them. It's one of their main um, fundamental principles of how they exist. This rules of acquisition, this great river provides kind of idea, this whole hierarchy of order. So yes, I did like his portrayal. I thought it was very good. Also, the kind of holding something over someone, holding something over another Ferengi. That
Mm.
was the other aspect that we kind of saw, because normally we saw the Ferengi dealing with the Federation, but to see them dealing with each other was kind of a different way.
Yeah, that is a
And
first. Yeah.
yeah, so he was kind of like, hey, you're letting this woman. What did he say? You're letting her take a. You're being tricked by a sly female who finds you repulsive. It was one of my favorite lines,
Yeah.
and I liked it because it was the truth. It was actually the truth.
The sly female. Careful, they'll get you. They'll get you.
So that was how he played it, and I liked Ethan Phillips' performance. Um, you know, a forced shore leave. It is that. Are you okay with the fact that Picard says to Riker, uh, "Troy asked for a shore leave, so I'm just gonna go ahead and send you along with her."
No, because he is very much assuming what may or may not be going on between the two of them. I mean,
Yeah,
Luoxana Troi and Deanna Troi, when they were discussing it, made it very clear that boat has sailed. That ship has sailed, right? It's
yeah.
over. It's done. They're moving on. And Picard's like, "Oh, number one, why don't you go hit that shit one last time? See what happens, or whatever, And
That's what
and
I
it,
felt.
and it's kind of like, and then Riker just kind of smirks as he always does. Yeah, that's a good idea, Captain. And he wears that amazing whatever outfit. I was like, this is ridiculous, but also amazing. I actually really liked it. The way his pants were hiked up to his nipples, and so
Uh,
anyway, I don't, but I don't like that, because what if you've broken up with somebody, and you're just like that, and then they say, okay, now you got to go on some romantic sojourn. You can be like, can you just let me decide when and with whom I'm going to vacation and hump? Thank you. And then what about Troy? She's like, oh, you're coming along? I was just doing my own thing. I didn't realize that you're coming. He's like, yeah, the captain made me. The captain? Like,
yeah,
it's just weird.
yeah.
And now it worked out, but no, come on. No.
It's being way too intrusive, in my
Yeah.
opinion, in his personal affairs. You can't volunteer him for the sex mission. That's not like first of all, like you said, Troy asked for herself. She didn't ask for the both of them, from what we understood, right? So
Mm-mm.
she probably just wants to be by herself or whatever and just enjoy a vacation. It's like that was kind of super intrusive, in my opinion. It wasn't even suggestive. It was literally almost like an order, like, like
Mm-hmm.
go and do this.
Like a pushy
Um,
mom, kind of like Luoxana. Actually, he was being Luoxana Troy there,
yeah,
like
yes,
pushing into somebody else's business. Yeah.
yes. And so that was just one of the many things I was uncomfortable with in this episode. It was too much for me. I'm sorry. This episode was a little bit too much for me. I, you know, I am uncomfortable with episodes where people are kind of forced into this kind of sexual slavery or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes me uncomfortable, because people being held and forced against their will bothers me, and and I couldn't rationalize it in this episode. No, even if she likes it at some point, Luoxana, who kind of, I guess, kind of liked it or kind of was playing along for whatever sake. Even under those circumstances, I think that a person is forced to do that because of the decisions of survival, and it's not a fair place to put somebody in. It's not a consenting position, and you don't have consenting adults. So when you don't have consent, it bothers me to the ultimate degree, which I feel like they visited this subject already,
Yeah.
uh, in Next Generation with Yar, with Tasha Yar. Remember, she was kind of like
Mm-hmm.
volunteering for that episode, and
Yeah.
I
And
just
they
feel
do
like
it
they're
again.
dealing with this subject.
And they do
Yeah.
it again in Enterprise. There's like a Beauty and the Beast kind of episode with Linda Park playing Hoshi that's not very good. And I feel like we've seen it once or twice in Deep Space Nine as well. Um, yeah, I mean, when that started happening, I was like, oh, God, this is an episode that is not going to age well. Where in like 1990, people were like, oh, it's pretty good, whereas people now are like, just, come on. Now, my first thought is put some women in the writer's room, see how that flies. But apparently, a woman co wrote this. So that's not the answer. The answer, I guess, is the times. But what I did to work around that, because I too was just like, I don't, it's just, yeah, it makes me feel uncomfortable. Like, I'm just like,
It's
this is,
creepy.
yeah, this
It's
is,
like
and it's also, it's just like, it's weird. Yeah, I'm like, I don't need to see this crap. But the way I worked around it was midway through, I was just like, I realized, I said, well, what if this was real? What if there are aliens out there that treat women like trash and sexual whatever, and they want them, that's perfectly possible. There are cultures still on this planet that would be similar to that would treat women horribly or whatever. So I just kind of told myself, rather than looking at it from the lens of I'm watching this on my chair in front of my computer in 2024, what if this was real? What if she was really a betazoid freak? what if, who's like got these mental powers and wants to hump Jean-Luc Picard? And what if this is really a race that treats women terribly and that are the horrible people or whatever? Then, I was like, okay, that works a little bit better as if I actually think, what if it was real? What if this is just what it was? It's perfectly plausible that if there are other alien races out there that they don't share the same values we do.
Yeah, it's just it is very possible that that could happen, and it just bothered me still. I couldn't get around it. I think what really triggered it too was like when the Ferengi beamed her and her mom up, and they both show up naked, and I'm like, really, we're beaming off clothes and stuff. Like this is getting too
I know.
too raunchy for me. Like
Yeah,
this
and then
is I thought this was a family show.
Troy's like, oh darn it. And Luoxana's like, tee hee. You're like, come on, Luoxana. Like we get that you go for, she's basically Mrs. Roper, which is great. It's cool. It's very progressive. I love that. She takes charge. She's amazing. That's why she's some people's favorite character, like our friend Dr. Anne-Marie Siegel. But even that type of person would still like to know and give consent if you're being made to be naked. Like,
Yeah,
like she would just be like, oh, tee hee. She'd be like, what the fuck? Like, come
she's like,
on.
what? It's cold. Like I was like, come on. It's like this is.
But that's
It,
her just
it,
keeping her
it,
cool. That's her just.
it's consistent. Yeah, it's her keeping her cool. It's consistent with the Ferengi being kind of chauvinist pervs. Um, it's consistent with that. Even though there have been exceptions to that's the general behavioral
That's the culture, yeah.
attitude, cultural. But there have been exceptions. We've seen that with Rom. We've seen that with Nog as he's learned about how to integrate into society. But yeah, I think this episode just left a lot more for me. I thought there were more interesting areas in which they could have discovered instead of it just being purely a sexual thing. I thought that the main tool that could have driven the episode was the Ferengi's obsession with the telepathy and how they can extract that and find a way to use that for their benefit. That would have made more sense to me. The sexual thing was too much for me. Because of just so many reasons. But ultimately, if they were the interest in telepathy did make sense to me. That would be a tool that would be great in negotiation and used it for business. And I could see why the Ferengi would want that around. So, but there were so many other ways to accomplish that, right? Like you can pay a Betazoid, for example, try to commission one to work for you, offering them maybe percentages as a partnership or something in some kind of deals that they make. There's so many ways that could have been brokered out. Or they could have kidnapped her for scientific research and conducted experiments or whatever they thought they needed to do to extract that information. Um, but the part that got creeped me out was like, somebody's not into you. It's just like respect that they're not into you. If someone says no, respect that they say no. I just have that kind of general.
That goes for you too, Luoxana.
Yeah, Luwak said
Uh,
it too. Yeah, she's got
no,
because it's yeah,
but I
yeah,
agree. Like, you know how it would have made how it would maybe fly better nowadays is if Luoxana were captured strictly for that business deal, no, not for the business deal, but strictly for the business aspect of using her telepathy and saying, "Nope, we're going to use you. You know, it's horrible. We're bad guys. We're blah blah blah." And she introduced the sexual aspect
that would have
to
worked for me
manipulate him.
to
You know,
manipulate him.
rather than
Hundred
that,
percent would have
and
worked for me.
then I feel like then it'd be a lot more palatable today. We'd be like, all right, that's cool. She initiated that kind of situation. She outsmarted him. She used what she could against what we know the Ferengi are. This kind of thing would work. Let's take a quick break and talk more about this episode that we love so much. We'll be right back on the seventh rule. Well, hi there, everybody. Welcome back to the Seventh Rule with Sirach frickin' Lofton. Wow, what a treat. Today, we've got some fun trivioids for you, and they are as follows. The Enterprise has been in attendance at the Biennial Trade Agreements Conference in Beta Z, on Beta Z. Riker finished off the Queen's Gambit with the Aldebaran exchange. By the way,
Yeah,
Aldebaran, I remember Dr. Bashir saying Aldebaran for something, but I don't remember what it was. I think it was like a food or an animal, like, oh, an Aldebaran condor, or I'll have some Aldebaran tea or something. I remember somebody in the comments below let us know what was the Aldebaran something that Bashir said or did or ordered. I remember it coming out of his mouth, I think.
wow, great
Uh,
memory.
Luoxana Troi would rather eat Orion wing slugs than deal with a toad-faced troll like Damon Togg. The sacred chalice of reeks is an old clay pot with mold growing inside of it. Luoxana Troi noticed some Uda berries back along the path. 91% of Starfleet graduates are not posted to Galaxy-class starships on their first assignment. Some females think Damon Togg's ears are his best feature. Ferengi have iron jaws. And the Enterprise needs to rendezvous with the shoe. It said that the USS Zapata, which means shoe in Spanish. So
It does. It does.
when they
I
said
thought
that,
the
they're like,
same thing.
we're going to rendezvous with the Zapata. I'm like,
And then they like, had a close up on some shoes coming in the door. I think it was actually.
oh,
But
those
no, yes, the
rascals.
Zapata. Yeah. Wow. This was over the top. Was
Well, let's talk
my
about
big
what
thing.
we did like on this episode, because I'll be honest, I didn't hate it, but it's
I didn't
not,
hate it either. I mean, let's say this: I didn't. I wasn't like clock watching it as like, oh my
yeah,
gosh, what time is it? It was going by. It was.
yeah,
It was
it was fine.
food for the eyes. Yeah.
It was fine. I wonder how well it does to the rest of the public. For me, the Luoxana Troi episodes never really worked, but some people love them. And I was hoping you did, but it sounds like you're in the same boat I am, where it's like, it just didn't quite. It was almost there. There were some things like they could have taken this idea in 2024, give it to Ira Stephen Bear, for example, or maybe these two writers get a second chance at it, and it would have been, I think, a much better episode. I think they could have worked around it because they're. By the way, I'll tell you what I did like about it. At the opening scene during the conference on, when they're doing like at the party in 10 forward, on the Enterprise, I saw a Bolian lady in the background, blue faced with hair, actually, like the other one that we saw that was captured in that one episode. And I saw, what was the other? I saw another alien. I saw a Zach Dorn in the background. A Zach Dorn. I never knew that there was going to be another Zach Dorn. Remember the guy? The guy that was like the strategist who played stratagema with Data, and he was doing this thing,
Yes,
this game.
I
There was
do.
another one of
Yeah.
those aliens in the background, and he
Where?
was walking in on 10 forward when they were having like the reception, and he was walking like him. He was just kind of going like that, like he had watched the episode and knew what
Yeah.
they acted like, and he was just kind of walking in the background, going like this, and doing his thing. I'd never noticed that there was a Zach Dorn again. I thought that was the only time he was we've ever seen one. But anyway, so that was pretty cool. So I love that kind of stuff. Deep Space Nine does that so much, having cool, recognizable aliens in the background.
Aliens. Yeah.
Next Generation very rarely does it, but this time they gave us a couple treats.
Yeah. We also got a Mr. Hom
Yeah.
sighting. Is that his name?
Yeah, Mr. Home or Mr. Hom. They pronounce it differently depending on the scene.
I like that guy. I don't know why.
Carol Stryken, I believe his name. He's like Dutch or something. And did you see this? I loved. Okay, I love Riker stuff. God, that guy is walking swagger. He's just like 99% swagger and 1% beard. When he and Deanna walk up to Luoxana and Mr. Home, he sees Home and they bow at each other. But Riker did a bow at him without even breaking his swaggerly stride. So he's walking along, he does a little thing, and then he just kind of keeps walking like in a little stumble swagger. I watched it like 3 times. I'm like, this guy has way too much fun. It's not fair to the rest of us. Jonathan Frakes is just like, oh, okay, who knows if the director said, you bow to him, or maybe he just did it. But he's just like stumbling and bumbling along, looking like he's having so much fun. I just love that dude.
Yeah, he's macho man. Apparently he's a great 3D chess player too. That was another feather in his cap.
I didn't realize. So they're all just good at it because Data's good at it. Wes is good at it. I'm sure Geordi's good at it. That dude. But now Riker's good at it too. But okay, here's a pet peeve of mine. Can I just air out a pet peeve? I don't like when shows, and they all do it, when they all surprise somebody with a checkmate. Okay? Anybody that's even a medium chess player isn't like surprise when somebody goes checkmate. They don't go, what? How'd you do that? It's like, the checkmate is coming and you're trying to avoid it. And that's why most people, when they know the checkmate is coming, they just give up because they're like, okay, there's nothing I can do. In 3 moves, I'm going to get checkmated. And that's not even like super advanced. It's like medium. So if they're trying to pretend like these people are advanced chess players, if he says you're going to be mated in 2 moves, the guy's not going to be like, what? How? Impossible. What are you talking about? Oh, and then he uses his bishop to kill his knight. And the guy's like, what? How did this happen? If your knight is being threatened by a bishop, you know it. Oh, there's a bishop here. There's a knight here. You could take it. You're not like, oh, how did that happen? I'm such a good chess player, but I didn't see that. Anyway, sorry, I got
came out of nowhere.
Yeah, out of nowhere.
Yeah. The chess stuff, I leave it alone because it's the 3D chess. So I kind of pretend like it's more complicated than
magic,
regular chess. Yeah, I always it's magical,
I've played that 3D chess, the tridimensional chess, and it does have interesting rules. Those 4 other pieces. It's like 3 main boards, right, and then 4 other ones. Those 4 other ones can move. So if you have like 1 or 2 pieces on that piece, you can move it to the next level or the next level. So you can really kind of do sneak attacks in that way. And you can also, so for example, a bishop can go diagonally across this board, but it can also go diagonally and up, across all 3 boards. Or if it's on this movable piece, it could go up to the 2nd or 3rd level and then go diagonal. Anyway, it's really interesting, fun concept.
Yeah, I only looked at that prop 1,000 times when it was on the set, but I never actually gave it any consideration. I remember looking at it a lot though. So every time I see one, it reminds me of Deep Space Nine and seeing it in Cisco's quarters. I think he had one in there.
What'd you think of Wesley Crusher? That was a kind of a good moment at the end there, right? Like at first I was like, oh wait, Wes is leaving? I don't remember Wes leaving this early. But it turns out he does not leave. But then Picard gave him that nice moment of like, that's it. You're an adult now. I'm going to make you a full acting ensign, this and that. And then Wesley giggles and skips along all happily. I'm like, dude, you're supposed to walk away tough looking. But it was still a good moment.
Well, now that he's getting more action than Jordy, he has to have a higher ranking. I was thinking like, yeah, he is kind of growing up. I thought this might have been the farewell episode for him because I know that he's not at the end, so I didn't know. I thought, oh, is this goodbye to Wesley? And it turned out that it wasn't the thing, and they gave him a nice little moment where he solved the whole thing. That part right there was a little like, again, believability wise, it was low on the level of believability for me. Um, Riker gets a hold of the Ferengi computer system and sends out an Algolian ceremonial rhythm through static interference in hopes to get the Enterprise's attention. Like, um, that ceremonial song was just played for them not too long ago, right in the early scene of
Yes.
this episode. It's not necessarily like their theme song, right? It's not like something that they would know, like, hey, this is our thing. You know what I mean? And to me, that was such a far fetch that song would be the thing. Oh, remember that ceremonial music we heard? Let me replay that through static interference, and hopefully that somebody will pick up on that. That's a far fetch.
Right. What that is emotional truth. Like they wanted that moment to happen, but the execution didn't quite work as well because we're like, come on, that felt like a late first season kind of episode, right? Where Wesley Crusher goes, wait a minute, I've got it. I'm thinking like, wouldn't Data have gotten that one where he listens to
That's
it
what
and Data's
thank
typing
you.
away and he's listening. And he goes, curious. I seem to be picking up on something different than everything else. And that's usually going to be a
Yes.
Data thing. But of course, we understand why Wes did it, so he could have his moment. And more so than the moment, it was so that he could show that he was willing to sacrifice himself for the betterment of his crew and the mission, which is really cool and cute and great. And that's why Picard was finally 3 seasons in saying, all right, kid, you're okay. You're okay, kid. And he's like, gee, Captain Picard, thanks, or whatever.
Yeah, the only thing is, as soon as I saw him with a red shirt on, I was like, it's only a matter of time, bro. You get the wrong color on, bro. You don't go on any away missions until this show ends.
Yeah, man. Well, let's talk about today's home run of the episode, shall we? Because there were a lot of heavy hitters in this one, including some people that were just here for this one episode. So, Sirach Lofton, what do you think? Who gets the home run of today's episode? While you're thinking about it, let's mention that there was the USS Bradbury. That was pretty cool. Clearly named after the science fiction writer Ray Bradbury. So I thought that was noteworthy. There are a lot of little noteworthy items in this episode. Arcturian Fizz. I know Arcturus is an actual star system out there. So there are a few cute little nods here and there. But anyway, what do you think? Home run of today's episode.
I'm going to give the home run to Ethan Phillips. I'm going to give it to him and what he's done for the Ferengi and his portrayal. It did ring true to me as authentic in the way that I've come to understand Ferengi. And so I'm going to give him the home run for taking that role and really setting some kind of standard with it.
I hope Eve England's in the free for all today because I want to hear. I think she can be like, "This episode was rubbish, 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 rubbish." We'll see though. I want to give the home run of the day, like an honorary home run, to whoever designed Riker's shirt. That puffy shirt was really fun, but I was kind of laughing at it, but then I was like, but he actually looks really good in it. Like it actually works in a 1990s way, you know? It was actually pretty
Definitely,
good, you know,
yeah.
and he's got the swagger. Jonathan Frakes in his mind, when he put that on, he thought, yeah,
I would
yeah,
sleep with me.
yeah, I would sleep with me. Like, yeah, 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 yeah. That's that. This is irresistible. Because you could tell when he's walking around in there, he's walking around like that. You guys love it. You know, you love it. So, but other than that, I agree with you, Ethan Johnny Phillips. Great character actor, great guy, nice fellow, and that very recognizable voice, and also kind of recognizable how that upper lip kind of moves up when he's playing an alien character. So he really did a lot, I think, in this episode. And I loved his outfit too. That's the first time we've seen a Ferengi in the Ferengi Alliance, like actually, you know, part of their ship, wearing something different than the standard Ferengi uniform. So that was also really cool. He was wearing kind of like magician's robes or whatever, silk magician's robes, which was kind of weird. But anyway, yeah, good for him. Good stuff there. Let's talk about the people we'd like to thank today. Where are they? There are a whole bunch of
I
them.
also want to say that I thought Major looked very beautiful in this episode as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this I thought she was just really stunning in some of those outfits, and she's just a beautiful person. So I
Very
wanted to add that in
classy,
there.
beautiful, love her. Okay, so here we go. Thank you very much to Homer Frizzell, Dr. Anne Marie Siegel, Eve England out in Wales. Fingers crossed we'll see her in a minute. Yvette Blackman, Tom, TJ Jackson Bay out in Missouri. Titus Moeller, Dr. Muhammad Noor Tierney C. Diekman, Anil O. Palat, Joe Balsarati, Mike Gu, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, aka Crewman Guy, My Live from Tokyo, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Justin Weir, Jake Barrett, Henry Unger, Allison Leach Hyde, Julie Manisfee, Greg K. Wickstrom out in the Hawaiian Islands, Jed Thompson, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, Glenn Iverson, Dave Gregory, Tim Baum, number one Pacers fan. And by number one, I mean he likes them. Chris Stern, they're doing pretty well. Chris Sternett, Chuck A., Joanna Yunker, Amiram Mizne, Nora Vega, Ed Jarrett, Steve Case, aka Joe Bug Buster, and of course, our pal, Jason Oken. All right, everybody, that's it for us. Stick around. We've got the free for all up next. Please remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon for notifications. If you're listening in, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review. We'd really appreciate it. Go to patreon.com and become a patron. We'd really appreciate that as well. You could join the free for alls. You could get the episodes before everybody. You could get so much fun stuff. So patreon.com/the seventh rule. Thanks very much. We'll be right back on that there seventh rule. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the seventh rule. This is the free for all with Melissa Longo.
Hi.
And Anil O. Palat is here.
Hello.
Finally. Carrie Schwent, aka Crafty Bear, wearing with some kind of animated thing behind her and the cool Ferengi eyes that she's wearing. Great green. Chuck A has a cool Cisco shirt. The Emissary, I believe it is, made by Walking Art, made by Melissa.
Yes,
Steve Case,
sure.
aka Joe Bugbuster, is hanging out on the Enterprise D, as is our pal Faith Howell in the Star Trek shirt. Chris McGee is cosplaying Riker today, and the Matt Boardman knows the memes in his background. There are a lot of fun memes there. All right. First things first. Sirach Lofton. Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score. Mind you, you can't go over a 10.
Oh, that's the max. Yeah, I think this one. I'm gonna go at a 6-1.
Ouch. Boy, oh boy. Does anybody else have any guesses that doesn't already know?
How about 6.8?
7.9?
Boardman's like, if I had 11 fingers, I would hold them all up too. The correct answer, of course, is 6.4. So not too far off, Sirach. Not too far off. Good guess. Did we get any non-appearance mentions? I guess what I got was Troi's dad again, because I know we see him in that video, but I can never remember his name. What's his name again?
Ian.
That's what I thought it was, Ian. But then, okay. Anyway, Ian Troi. Great. Did we get another one?
Does Zephyr Cochrane count? Because we hear about the Cochrane distortion.
That's the Johnny Cochran distortion.
And Mike Akuda and the other dude
Doug Drexler?
named that certain thing after Zephyr Cochrane.
Right. I don't know. What do you...
That's a nap. It is.
Because when we say like, something's really hot and it's like 10 Kelvin, is it a NAM for whoever the Jimmy
we never
Kelvin?
see Kelvin.
No, but I mean, it's a measure. This is a tough one. What do you guys think?
Lord Kelvin.
I think it's a NAM.
All right. NAM for Zephyr Cochrane. Cochrane.
Yeah.
Well earned, too. Well deserved. All right, Melissa Longo, will you please... Oh, wait, some kind of or some sort of. I didn't hear one.
I did not hear any, no.
Okay. Melissa Longo, what you got on this episode? Do you love it?
What I got on this episode was a funny little episode. Little episode, because there's little used a lot, even in protests. Little man, little one, little, all of these littles. So it's a funny little episode. And I'll keep it brief. I really enjoyed the scene at the end where Picard is trying to win Luoxana back. And because I thought he was funny. I thought the acting was really great.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Great stuff. Thank you very much, Melissa Longo. Great Seventh Rule shirt. Everybody, you could get that Seventh Rule shirt as well as the one that Carrie Schwent is wearing at the Seventh Rule shop, the Teespring store. Click that link in the description box below and get your very own shirt. Anil, are you wearing one too?
No, not today. The only day
but I know that color. All right. Well, Anil O. Palat is also here, and thank goodness he's back for such a great episode. What'd you think of it?
I like it more just because of the memes, to be honest with you. Like it's sort of, it just kind of had a resurgence. And I'm like, I kind of like this. And then I just wait for the end scene. And it's really good acting because it's sort of Picard. It's so kind of cringy in a way, and he's so uncomfortable. And I almost forget about the other parts of the episode, which are okay. But I think Picard steals the show. And it feels like the episode where the writers are like, okay, we're so comfortable with the characters now that we can have fun. We can take them to dark places, but we can have some fun with them as well. And so I feel like there's a level of comfort here. And it just, shows what the show is growing into, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if they're going to have any more good episodes before this season is over. Carrie Schwent, aka Crafty Bear. What's up, Carrie? What'd you think of this one?
Yeah, this one's kind of a mixed bag. There's the obvious problematic bits about it, so I'll focus on the things that I did like about it. I always love it when Lwaxana Troi comes on the ship. Her fashion is always on point. My favorite is the green dress at the end. I love just how that one flowed. Her hair looked the best in that outfit. And I think Deanna forgot about her kiss with Riker in this scene when in Star Trek Insurrection she said she'd never kissed him with a beard before. She kissed him with a beard. I mean, it wasn't a long kiss.
Yep.
But she did kiss him. And of course, being the Voyager fan that I am, I love seeing Ethan Phillips. His voice is instantly recognizable to me. I love him as Neelix on Voyager. This character, yeah, I could shove him out an airlock, but I love him, the actor himself. And on the cruise, he is hysterical. The man knows a lot of very dirty jokes, and if you know, you know.
The penguin joke.
And I actually saw 5 Easter eggs in the opening scene during the reception. There are 2 costumes that are brought back from previous episodes. You've got Yarina's cat suit from Code of Honor when she's fighting with Tasha on.
Wow.
I can't remember what the actress wearing it. You've got Anne. Oh, I wrote it. Anne Jameson's dress. The wife of the guy who ages backwards is on a Bolian woman in the back of the room.
Bolian woman. I caught that Bolian woman.
You see a blink and you miss it, Klingon female in the background somewhere. And then there's also a Zach Dorn walking around, and a Sele, the lizard guy from Lonely Among Us. There's one of them walking around in the background.
Very good. I definitely got the Zach Dorn. Did not see the Sele. Did you guys see the Zach Dorn? Like he's going around and he's just being his old Zach Dorny.
Yeah. I spotted him immediately. I really liked the music at the beginning, that sort of bamboo xylophone. I thought that music was beautiful. And of course we get to see Wesley officially in his red regular Starfleet uniform. He looks so grown up, very, very, very handsome. And we had the debut of Deanna's lavender and gray uniform. And the drawing behind me was drawn by a friend of mine, Amanda, that I worked with. And I told her that the first time we see this outfit on screen, I was going to have that as my background. So I cut it out as sort of a sticker to put behind a picture of a nebula I found that looked kind of similar to the one that was in the episode. And of course, Picard doing his over-the-top Shakespeare. That scene will never not be laugh out loud, falling on the floor funny. So I decided as an inspiration for my limerick for the episode, I was going to go over the top Shakespearean. So if this got cut from all the Shakespeare stuff that he says in the episode. My love springs from quite a desperate place. Your handsome form I must now embrace. From that troll's side thee shall flee, and speed post haste back to me, else that foul ship from my wrath they shall brace. And I toast you with a glass of Menage a Trois wine.
Rosé looks like. Very nice.
Yep. Hot pink specifically.
Great stuff. Thanks very much, Carrie Schwent. All right, Chuck A is here. Do you have a glass of wine? And what do you think of this episode?
I do not. I had a mixed bag for me. I liked majority of it. I liked what Carrie said about Picard's Shakespeare speech. What I did miss out on was we didn't get to see the new door mechanisms and the aft turbo lift. They never showed that scene. I thought that was hilarious with Data and the Betazoid. I forget the Betazoid guy's name, but I thought it was hilarious. I loved the expression on his face when Picard said that. The other thing I liked Ethan Phillips, seeing him in the episode. Don't necessarily like the character he played too much, but it was good to see an advanced Ferengi. It's developed over since the first season. At least they have some, I wouldn't say redeeming qualities, but they're showing what the Ferengi wind up being on DS9. They're gradually getting there. And the last thing is I did love to see the bit with Wesley figuring out that the message was in the static. That was really good, and him getting into the regular red uniform. That was really good to see after 3.5 seasons of that acting ensign uniform.
Yeah, very good stuff. Great to see Wes. Thank you very much for that, Chuck A. And yes, Rock, we didn't end up talking too much about Picard, but we always talk about how, like, now in the third season, the writers are looking for excuses to have Patrick Stewart basically doing Shakespeare stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this was another one of those examples. All right, back to business. Steve Case, a.k.a. Joe Bugbuster. What's up? What do you think of this one?
Well, I enjoyed seeing several notable Trek actors that were shown or that were foreshadowed in this episode. Luxana makes me and Jean-Luc crazy, but I'm always happy to see Majel or hear her as the computer or just showing up in unexpected places. I also enjoyed recognizing the voice of Ethan Phillips, like others have mentioned, who later became Neelix on Voyager, and he was a Ferengi in this case. I was disappointed not to see Armin Shimmerman or Aaron, since Quark and Nog, of course, would come later in DS9, but they were sort of there, but not there yet. We did get to learn about Umox, and Patrick Stewart got to return to his theatrical roots, reciting Shakespeare. Enjoyed that. And it was a reminder of that meme that we see all the time of him, doing this thing, reciting Shakespeare. And we saw Wesley promoted to a full ensign, wearing an actual uniform. I appreciated that instead of the sweater of the week that they had him wearing. So yeah, a lot of goodness was fit into this one episode. There were some strange things too, like with communicators and view screens, but we can talk about those in things left unsaid. So I did like this episode, even with those crazy Ferengi.
Very good. Is that a blood donor shirt? That's awesome, Steve Case. Good stuff.
It's you go, superhero blood donor.
Everybody go donate some blood. The proper way. Thanks very much, Steve Case, a.k.a. Joe Bugbuster. Faith Howell is here. Be careful. Her least favorite character is Wes, so she's going to say some things. What do you think of this episode?
I like this episode, and it kind of breaks my heart that if, in today's society where we only get 10 episodes a season, we probably wouldn't have gotten this little gem. Of course, my favorite part of this episode is the end scene. And I really love that scene because I feel like it shows Patrick Stewart's acting abilities, the layers of Picard being surprised and showing his love for Shakespeare, but also his sort of discomfort with Luoxana. Like, all of it is readable in his face the whole time, but he's like, the joy at quoting Shakespeare is there too. So it was really just fun to watch and rewatch that scene. I love that it's a meme too, that it's just out in the world for everybody. But then my absolute favorite thing about this episode, as you guys know, is back to our roots of Deep Space Nine, that this is referenced in, I think it's the turbo lift scene where Luoxana and Odo are stuck together, and she references back to her time with Montague. So that's my favorite thing.
Excellent knowledge. Wow. Thank you very much, Faith Howell. Great stuff there. All right, the Dark Lord, Chris McGee is here. What do you got for us today?
Well, first of all, if I'm going to be cosplaying as Riker, I need to show more of my chest hair here. So let's get this. There we go. All right.
Yeah.
So while this is not one of my favorite episodes, I do enjoy it, and it certainly is a landmark episode for a few reasons, many of which have already been pointed out, such as finally being introduced to Umox and Wesley Crusher finally being promoted to a full ensign, but also something else like we finally get an honest description of the sacred chalice of Reeks from Deanna, and of course her honest feelings about her mother's nickname for her little one. But most importantly, of course, as has already been mentioned, it is another Picard meme episode giving rise to the image that I'm sure we've all seen from his Shakespeare recital near the end. This episode is it's a yes.
Can you put that back up? Did you see Riker giggling in the background? Look at this.
Yes.
He's loving it.
Notice that during.
Quite all right. It is a nice diversion, actually, from the last few episodes, like Tin Man, The Most Toys, and Sarek, which are generally more serious, and this one's a little bit lighter. And coincidentally, while the day that we're recording this free for all is on a day when my mother came to visit me. She's nothing like Loxana, though. Speaking of, Loxana does, I think, have a point about talking with one's mouth full. It reminds me of a joke that Gallagher once said. Like, he asked why, when we want to talk to someone, we invite them out to eat and busy the only orifice we were interested in. I agree with that a little bit. Okay, memorable quote of the episode to close this out is set course for Beta Z, Warp 9.
Oh, those silly Star Treks. Thank you very much for that, Chris McGee. All right, the Matt Boardman is here wearing a cool sweater. Walking art made by Melissa.com. What do you think of this episode?
I love this episode. This episode, okay, maybe controversial, maybe not. I put this episode right up there with Heart of Stone from Deep Space Nine. And the reason I do that is because I love character development. I love it when it's part of that B story, but yet feels to me more important than the rest of what's going on, because I love Wesley's development over the years. And to me, this is kind of one of like the culmination of what we've been led to up to this point. Heart of Stone, we see Nog embark on a new journey. Now, we don't get to see Wesley take that same trajectory that we saw Nog take through the rest of Deep Space Nine, but there is a musical piece at the end of this episode that has lived rent-free in my head for 30 plus years. And Ron Jones, I love Ron Jones' music. It is it's entitled Real Ensign. And if you want to listen to it, YouTube has graciously obtained a license to be able to play music from the Ron Jones Project, and you can listen to it. And this is a song that for the longest time, has always been in my head. And I've always identified it as the Wesley Crusher song, because whenever I think of Wesley and his character, I think that song pops in my head. And I love music. I love character pieces, and I love being able to identify characters from that. You know, it's one of the reasons why I love John Williams, because especially with the Star Wars franchise, you know, he specifically wrote themes that made us think of these characters. And to me, this is always Wesley's theme. But I mean, is the episode silly? Sure, it is. But it's also so much fun. And like we've discussed, others have discussed here, you know, and especially this seems very poignant is recently, given the discussion regarding the length of seasons and everything like that, we would not get an episode like this. And I just think that that's so vital. These episodes are vital to the tapestry that makes up Star Trek, because it gives us those opportunities to get to know people, to see people promoted to the rank of ensign, and to appreciate those moments more, because we've been able to see more of these types of stories along the way.
Yeah. Matt, I was just looking at a message you just sent me. Joe Burrow. Have to look at that a little more closely. Anyway, thanks very much, the Matt Boardman. Great stuff. All right, Allison Leach Hyde. Do not do this at home, everybody. She is zooming from car. What did you think of this episode that you probably watched from the road?
She's having a problem.
No, yeah, she's muted right now,
she's
but that's
muted.
okay. Once she gets that worked out, we'll come back to her. Let me, there we go. Let me prompt you. See if that works. Oh man, did she jump off? All right. Well, there she is.
I'm here. Sorry.
All right, we got you.
I'm not used to this from my phone. So thanks for letting me jump in right at the end. I appreciate it. I too adore this episode for the relationships between parents and children. And as I've gotten older and had my own children, I get more from this episode between having Waxana and Deanna and Beverly and Wesley. I personally have boys. So part of this episode makes me so mad because Wesley is having this great talk about what's really exciting and really sad about going off essentially to college with not his mom. And as a mom, I'm like, I want to have that conversation. So I really wanted Bev to have that conversation with Wesley. I would have really loved that personally. And it would have, I think, would have been a nice thing because she didn't get to parent him for an entire season that we had him. So I would have liked to see that. But I also love to see the growth of watching Deanna and Waxana go, hey, I am an adult. I want our relationship to change. I still love you. I'm still your daughter, and I will always feel your pain. Like that scene with Waxana being tortured and Deanna having to experience it with her mom. I'm personally close with my mom, so I can also understand that feeling. My mom and I, of course, are not telepathic with each other, but I can really relate to that. So that's what I really love about this episode. And anytime we get to see Patrick Stewart recite Shakespeare with such glee and joy, I'm always going to be here for that. So never skip this episode. Always watch it.
Excellent stuff. And Sirach thought it was a 6.1. Jake's final take, everybody.
I think that Major always brings a level of fun to things that, is kind of immeasurable because no matter what the tone is of an episode, she kind of imprints her own tone on top of it. And that just shows how powerful of a personality and a spirit that she has. I just think that she's really big. And when she comes on the set or when she's on the station or on the ship, it's like all about her. So I kudos to her just for having that kind of energy. I love the line that she had in this, couple of lines that she had. One, when she says, I am not for sale, find someone else to become your property. I thought she delivered that very well. She stood up for herself in a nice way, and I like that delivery. And I also like when she said, William, I'm a grown woman. I can make my own decisions. The way she said that, too, she kind of put Riker in his place. Like, no, thank you. I don't need your opinion on things. I thought also the costuming was beautiful. I thought Troi's dress and Luoxana's dresses were just beautiful, well made, and I thought it caught my eye. So kudos to wardrobe for coming up with some really nice stylish looks, including also Mr. Holmes' outfit, which I thought was kind of super colorful. I like the long kind of knee-high boots he was wearing. So another great wardrobe job. Yeah, I think everything else has been really said. My last line is, Worf. He didn't get any lines, but he gives you these looks, these side looks, like of disgust, especially towards the end after Picard gave his Shakespeare montage. Worf was so disgusted, and I love his looks of disgust. It's something I look forward to because it's not much of a moment that he gets, but sometimes no lines at all. But just when he gets the look, he makes that look stand out. And lastly, this episode, because of Picard's Shakespeare, reminded me of a new kind of nickname that I'm going to have for myself, and that is Jakespeare.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay. Very good stuff. All right, everybody. That coffee table book, Shakespeare, will be out in September, so keep an eye on that. It's good back to school book for everybody. All right, that's it for us. Great stuff, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Allison, Matt, Chris, Faith, Steve, Chuck A, Carrie, Anil, for myself, Melissa, Sirach, and Mr. Aaron Eisenberg. Thank you all for joining and for tuning in. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Until then, always remember the 7th rule with Sirach Lofton.